Hey everyone, this is JoJo, and Dave MacArthur is here with me, and we really have come together today to talk to you about the thing that we think is that we know. I'm not even going to say think, I'm going to say know. We know is the foundation of really achieving the things that we all desire. And that all comes from what's going on up here all the time, where what we're visualizing, what we're seeing, what we're choosing for ourselves, the language that we're using, all of those things come together to create the roots and the foundation to build up the things that we desire. And so really in utilizing the 10 and 10 to be able to take the time to stop and really concentrate and visualize on what we want, where no other distractions are coming in, where we're actually able to focus on what we do, to do our 3x5 cards and to really put it in context of what we choose for ourselves. So it's not what we're choosing for you. This is all what you guys get to choose for yourself. So ours are ours, yours are yours, but we're just going to give you the steps to be able to put that together for yourself. Like Dave uses an app to do his now, but I use 3x5 cards. So here's my 3x5 card. I write it all out on the front, and then I put pictures on the back that equate to what the front says. And I've done that multiple times where we have different pictures. Um, and so I concentrate on these, and this helps me keep my focus on this versus all the noise and the stuff that goes on all around us all day long. Are we able to keep our mind at home? And, Dave always says, guard your focus with your life, guard your focus with your life. And we know that so many things can come in and distract us, and there's so much noise in the world, and there can be such negative, and it's where we choose to put our focus. So when we can keep that focus on this, then we know that amazing things show up, amazing people show up, amazing opportunities show up. And so I am just going to let Dave run and give us some steps to be able to put this together for ourselves every day in a really simple way.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thanks.
Dave.
Yeah, I'm excited to do this. I was looking at a quote today because I was wanting to repeat it to somebody, and I looked it up online. It's from As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. And maybe just starting, I don't want to have to convince people. This is really more about what is the structure and the protocol and the system behind doing the 10 and 10. But I still feel like, okay, let's just kind of set this up a little bit for the person's mind to be right going into this. And this is what James Allen says from As a Man Thinketh: mind is the master power that molds and makes, and man is mind, and evermore he takes the tools of thought, and shaping what he wills, brings forth 1,000 joys, 1,000 ills. He thinks in secret, and it comes to pass. Environment is but his looking glass. So what he's basically saying is that thinking is very powerful. In fact, it's the most powerful force that we know of. But most people don't think in a concentrated, focused way with a specific intention. There are times in our lives when people do that, but they're kind of unknowing of the power that's really behind that. They just get so desirous for something that they can't get it out of their mind. And when we get into that place, we always get it. When that happens and we sustain that, we always end up physically experiencing that thing we desire. So the power that he's talking about in As a Man Thinketh, James Allen, is concentrated, sustained thought. And it has to be uninterrupted, though. A concentrated, sustained, uninterrupted thought. Well, how do we interrupt it? It's not that you have to think about the same thing all day long and can't think about anything else. It's the uninterrupted thought is when we have a doubt or some kind of negative thought about accomplishing that goal. That's the interruption. So we want to have consistent, constant, concentrated, sustained thought in a faithful way. So the 10 and 10 helps us to develop that skill and that mental muscle. Earl Nightingale in The Strangest Secret said, a successful person is somebody who has so developed the faculties of their mind, they can have anything they want. So developing the faculties of your mind is getting it to stay focused in that concentrated, sustained way on a specific thought without interrupting it with doubt. So the 10 and 10 is going to help us to start to develop that mind so that it does it. And I'll just, maybe one more thing here. I was listening to Bob Proctor just the other day. I've got to constantly remind myself of these principles and why it's important for me to do it every day. Otherwise, I'll start to forget and I'll stop doing the work. So I was listening to Bob just yesterday, and he said a PGA golfer sat next to me on an airplane. And he said, he sat down next to me and said, "You can help me." And Bob didn't know this guy, but that guy knew Bob. He said, "Yeah, I saw you on The Secret. And I'm a PGA golfer and I'm not doing very well. And I didn't even make the last cut." And so Bob arranged for him to come out and stay a couple days at his home. And the guy came out. Bob sat him down in a chair and said, he drew a dot on the wall. And he said, "I just want you to focus on that dot. Just focus on the dot. And when your mind wanders away, bring it back to the dot." And he says, as a golfer, that is going to be something that you have to develop, that sustained concentration where it doesn't get distracted. And so him focusing on the dot, and then when his mind wants to start thinking about something else, bringing it back is like when you're doing bench press. The bringing it back is the thrust of the bench press, lifting that weight off of the chest and breaking down the muscles, which then builds the muscle to become stronger. So when that mind starts taking control rather than you being in control, as soon as you start thinking about the dot, you're bringing it back, and that's building the muscle. Each time it goes away, you bring it back, and you can hold it there for longer and longer periods of time the more you do it, because you've, in a sense, bench pressed a lot of times and developed a muscle to where now it doesn't go away so often. You're able to hold it there on the dot for a longer period of time because of how many times it went away and you brought it back. That's the exercise. So don't think and get frustrated because your mind's going away from the dot. When you bring it back, that's literally building the muscle. And you wouldn't build the muscle. You wouldn't need to build the muscle if you could stay focused on the dot. Then you would be intentional and you'd be able to do what Earl Nightingale says, because you're in control of your mind, not your mind in control of you. Does that make sense, Jojo?
Yeah. It absolutely does.
All right, so don't get frustrated by the fact that the mind's going away. Celebrate that. Like Rod Harrison says, celebrate the challenge, because that is the exercise that's going to develop that muscle. But you got to make sure you're bringing it back. And you got to make sure you're doing it every day. That's part of the 10 and 10 is every day. I'm going to share, maybe I'll go a little bit longer than I was thinking, but I think this is important. Carrie and I just on podcast number 10 for the new podcast, The Science of Getting Rich. It should be posted any day here now. Where I was talking about something I had talked about before. In our shower, we have a walk-in shower, and we've been squeegeeing the wall, right? You squeegee the wall, get the water off there so it doesn't leave water spots and all the other stuff that could develop from not squeegeeing it. We've lived in this house for almost 14 years now. And it's still, there are some days when I do not want to squeegee that wall. Like, I thought if you built a habit means you'll just do it all the time now. I've been doing it for 14 years, you guys, and there are still days where I absolutely do not want to squeegee the wall, and I have to go into my mind and talk to myself and say, Dave, the reason you squeegee the wall is because it prevents this, this, and this from happening. And I bend over and I grab that squeegee and I squeegee the wall. I've been doing it for 14 years, and it's still something that I have to, in a sense, make myself do. It's not easy. Some days it's easy and I just do it without even thinking about it. There are days, you guys, I'm going to make a small confession, that I walked out without squeegeeing the wall. There was like, no way I'm squeegeeing the wall. I don't feel like it today, right? So it's not like when you decide to do this and you've done it for a month that it's going to be easy for you to do it the next month. Every day you have to be recommitted to why you do it. Why do I squeegee the wall? Well, I have my own reasons for why I squeegee the wall. Carrie has her own reasons for why she squeegees the wall. Some of them are similar and some of them are completely different. But we found the internal dialogue that makes us squeegee that wall consistently without missing in 14 years, very many days. I could count on one hand probably how many times I didn't squeegee the wall. So there's a downward entropy. It's good that I squeegee the wall because these bad things don't happen from me squeegeeing the wall, yet there is still something that makes me not want to squeegee the wall, even though it gives me favorable results. As humans, we're always looking for the path of least resistance. And the least resistance in this case is don't squeegee the wall at all. But that doesn't serve me. And so I have to fight that downward entropy, it's called. It's kind of like gravity. It's always wanting to pull down, and it doesn't ever let go. There is something that's always going to make you want to take the path of the least resistance. And that may mean I'm not going to do my 10 and 10 this morning because I don't feel like it. My biological rhythm's down, and I just don't feel like it. I don't care if I reach my goals or not. And you'll come up with all this rationalization as to why I did not do your 10 to 10. I would go and listen to that podcast, number 10, in the Science of Getting Rich, on our podcast that we're doing. And you have to come up with some non-negotiables, some fundamentals that you're going to do whether you feel like it or not. Kind of like brushing your teeth and taking a shower. Even though you may not feel like doing it, you do it, like squeegeeing the wall. The 10 and 10 has to become a non-negotiable for you, because there's going to be times when you absolutely don't feel like doing it, but trust me, it will serve you to do it.
That was really important, because we sometimes, I think after a period of time, and we've been doing something for so long, we just feel like it just should be natural. Like, what's wrong with me? We feel like some way we're failing because we go back to that old feeling or that old thought. Like, doesn't it ever go away? So that was just a perfect explanation of, no, it probably isn't ever going to go away.
It never goes away. Jojo, and in the podcast, I bring up that I believe is the challenge. It's not whether somebody knows they should be doing it or not. It's being consistent and non-negotiable with those fundamentals that win championships, right? And that is the challenge. I believe that's the more, not the not knowing how to do it. That's the videos, the YouTube motivational videos that are trying to get you motivated in the moment. What moment are we talking about? That moment when I don't want to squeegee the shower, that moment when I don't want to do my 10 and 10. That's what those videos are, those motivational videos are for, is that moment right there when the entropy is saying, I'm not going to do it. And then you have to find that internal motivation to actually do it. So if we just make the decision that this is a non-negotiable, I'm doing my 10 and 10 every day. And some days I may just like give it half the effort or hardly any effort at all, but I did it. I sat down for the 20 minutes and I did it, even though it wasn't like a butt-kicking moment of 10 and 10. It was like, man, I made it through. When's that 10-minute timer going to go off, right? But I still did it. I've been doing that now on this level, non-negotiable, for about 90 days now. And at about 75 days, something big manifested in my material world that I put on my 3x5 cards 90 days ago. It took about 75 days for it to actually show up, you guys. And I know that's how it works. There's just gestation period in it. And what I read from James Allen's As a Man Thinketh, I know that's how it works. But yet there are still in my life where I don't do it on the level I've been doing it for the last 90 days. And every time I don't do it on that level, I am fighting my goals. It's like pushing water uphill with my hands. It doesn't go uphill very easy. And at the moment I start doing it on this level is the moment things start clicking, the divine doors start opening up. All right, so let me share my screen here and just talk about the semantics and the protocol for doing the 10 and 10. And it's super simple, super easy to understand, simple to do. Kind of like the Forever Pack. It's easy to understand and it's simple to do. Okay, so there's step one. So we'll just go 10 and 10. And what that means really is 10 minutes and 10 minutes. That's what the 10 stands for, 10 minutes and 10 minutes. The first 10 minutes is going to be gaining control. First, okay, so this is the first 10 minutes. I'm going to put A, is going to be gaining control. And this will be broken down into two parts, an A and a B. This is going to be over the physical body. So what you want to do for this is set your alarm to go off in 10 minutes And then if you want to use a stopwatch, you can. But you want to be like a statue. No moving, no scratching, no looking off to the right or to the left. I don't care what you're thinking about. You're just a statue. You're frozen. You're not going to move. You're not going to cross and uncross your legs. It's funny because I said, there's going to be an itch that shows up. And for me, it's usually right around here. It's like a very irritable itch, or inside the ear. It's like it wasn't there before, but now that I'm going to be a statue, all of a sudden this itch shows up. And it was funny because when I said an itch is going to show up, John Myers said, it's usually right on my cheek. And I'm like, oh, how funny. That's the same place for me. Very irritating itch. They'll show up in other places, but it shows up there. It's crazy. I resist itching it. And sometimes the itch gets even more and more. And what I did in the beginning was like, I'm like, okay, I'm going to itch it and then I'm going to start. And then you start again and the itch comes back. So just don't itch it. You got to get to where you're 10 minutes without moving, right? For some people, this is going to be very, very difficult. For other people, they're going to ace it after a couple tries. And some people are going to nail it right on the first try. And it's going to be all over the place. Don't judge yourself either way. For people who have to always be busy doing something, like the stressed out achiever, if they're not doing something, they don't feel like they're of worth and they're wasting time and they're being selfish, this will be a very difficult exercise. For other people, they may nail it on the first time, okay? So I just want you to kind of pay attention to where you fit into that. After you've nailed it, I would say 3, 4, 5 times, then you're going to move to step B, all right? Because you can't gain control over your mental thoughts without first having gained control of the physical body. I mean, that's a more crude control, right? I mean, just the physical movement. The thoughts are going to be a more difficult thing, but first we've got to gain control over the physical body. So once you've done that 2, 3, 4 times and you've got it for 10 minutes, you can sit there, then great. Then go on to step B. And if maybe you get to, I don't know, Jojo, what do you think? If you get to, you can do it for 5 minutes and then something causes you to move and then you do it for another 5 minutes, maybe you could start going on to step B. But man, you should really be able to sit for, to me, passing at 100%. You sit there for 10 minutes without moving. To me, that's what I'd hold myself to before I go to step B. Any thoughts on that?
Agreed.
Jojo, step A?
Agreed. And I think, if for the really distracted, type A driver, to sit still for 5 minutes could be really difficult. So I think that the 5-minute mark would be a good achievement before they moved on to the mental. So I said to both.
It's like a huge accomplishment that they got 5 minutes in, right?
It is. But then do another 5. Don't just stop at the 5.
Okay, so in B, now we're going to go to thoughts. And for lack of, because I don't want to let people think of what thought they should be thinking about, I say breathing. This is how any thought that has to do with breathing, okay? Inhaling air, thinking, it's thoughts that have to do with breathing. You could breathe in deep. And while I do this, you guys, I still do the whole body thing. I get in a comfortable position and I hold myself to not moving, not scratching while I'm doing the breathing. All right, because I want to continue to gain control over my physical body for that 10 minutes, the entire day, 10 minutes, right? So I'm going to now take it to the thoughts. And it's going to be thoughts. I guess I should have put thoughts. So thoughts of breathing. Anything that has to do with breathing. The air is now going past my lips, and I can feel it. Now I'm going to breathe through my nose and through my nostrils. I'm going to close my lips, and my air is coming through the nostrils now. And it's going into my lungs and oxygen. I'm just surrounded with oxygen. Isn't that cool that there's so much oxygen in the universe and I don't have to fight my neighbor for it? Oxygen is just around everywhere. And I can breathe in and I can imagine it going to my organs, to my heart, through my cardiovascular system, down to my toes, feeding my toe cells oxygen. Anything that has to do with breathing. Breathing the air out and how does it affect the environment? What's it doing for the plants? And anything that has to do with breathing. Now, I want to get a little more detailed than I have because I've thought about this as I've been doing the breathing exercise, explaining it this way. I used to say if you have any other thought besides breathing, then you have to stop the stopwatch because you're going to stopwatch yourself on this. You're still going to set the timer to go off in 10 minutes, but you want to see incrementally how long you're extending your ability to hold it just on the thought of breathing. Now, I used to say, as soon as you have another thought, like, was that the mailman that just went by? Then hit the stopwatch and see how long you were able to think about thinking before the mailman driving by distracted you. I'm going to change that a little bit. It's the second thought after the first distracted first thought. So the mailman just drove by. You're going to hear things and you're going to, something's going to make you think about it. But the moment you allow your thought to get out of control and go off in its own direction, which is, I wonder what he's bringing today, or I've been expecting those tickets that I ordered for the concert. Now you stop the stopwatch. It's the second thought after the first distracted thought. That's where we really want to be in control, because you're not going to be in control of your senses, hearing, or, typically hearing, because I close my eyes while I do this one. So your senses, you can't stop something from happening. Oh, somebody made a noise in the kitchen. Back to breathing. Don't let somebody made a noise in the kitchen. I wonder who that was, or who's up out of bed already. Oh my gosh, I've not got my day started yet, and they're already out of bed. That's a train of thoughts that's now going in another direction that's taking you away. And so what we want to do now is bring it back to breathing before we get to that second thought, you guys. That is such a powerful, disciplined mind, because that's going to help you with some other principles and laws that we're going to talk about in just a second here, the law of assumption. But that's what Bob's wanting this guy to do. Bring his thought back to the dot as quickly as possible. Not have 10 thoughts and then say, oh, I better get back to the dot again. We want to get that mind so disciplined that it recognizes the first thought that doesn't have to do with the dot, and then not allow the drunk monkey in our mind, to get us to think about another chain of thoughts that goes in another direction. That's taking your energy that's focused and concentrated on something and starting to attract something very specific. Now it's diluted. Now it's being taken away and washed out. It's negating the thing that you want, right? So from attracting it. And that's how most people think all day long. It's just one thought after another, and their senses are telling them what to think about. Their boss is telling them what to think about, and they're not keeping it intentional. So this exercise right here is to get you to develop that mental muscle and discipline it, not on your goals, but on a very specific thing, breathing and the movement of the body. All right? Anything you want to add to that, Jojo?
No, I like it. It's good.
Okay, that's the first 10 minutes.
And that's funny, because I wasn't thinking about all the other things that you think about breathing. I was concentrating on feeling the in and out the whole time. But I like the little random thoughts of breathing, because that helps my distracted mind to be able to have something else.
Be creative with the thoughts of breathing, because that's what we're going to do with our actual visualization, with our goals, right? We've got to get to where this place of creativity. Charles Hannell had an exercise where you look at a square and then you see a circle in that square and a dot. And then he says, change the colors of it, right? Once you can see that in your mind's eye. And so not only did I change the colors of it, but then I'm like, well, let's make it a rainbow all the way around, not just one solid color, right? I'm being creative with it, and I'm doing different things. So be creative with your thoughts of breathing. Don't be in a box on this, you guys, but do be in a box with the principle. There's a principle, and then there's rules. Okay, the principle is think on one particular subject. The rule is I get to follow whatever rules I want, what it is about thinking about that particular subject. Okay, the person who's going to be bound up and in a box is going to be somebody who only does one particular thing and thinking about one thing with the breathing, right? Be creative with it, because there's principles and then there's rules. And it's going to be the same way with your Isagenix business. There's going to be principles that you have to follow. Principle of leverage to create wealth, the principle of duplication, right? However, the rules that we follow in those principles are going to be different from person to person. Make sense?
I also think that too, when you think of all the layers of thought, so you have the initial cognitive thought, then you have the layer that's underneath that, then the layer that's underneath that, and the layer that, so there's all of those thoughts happening at the same time that are layered on top of each other. When you can direct each layer to think of the same thing
Yes.
in a different way, I think that's helpful as well.
Yeah. And because your mind, you could be like listening to something like a talk tape, but you're on a thought trip. You're listening to the person's voice, but you're thinking about something completely different. Our mind works in those kind of layers, like you're saying as well, too. And we could be doing the breathing exercise and just being in the modality of doing that. But under that, we're really thinking about something else. So this will help you to become aware of the dynamics and what's going on in your mind, right? And that's where we want to get, so that we stop the self-sabotaging thoughts. We'll become aware of them. Just doing this exercise will help you be more aware of your thinking during the day. All right, the second 10 minutes is doing your goals. So your goals, and we want to write them out with the law of assumption. So if we're assumption is assuming. If we're assuming, we're looking at something from the perspective that it's already so. It's already whatever that thing is that we're thinking about. We've just assumed it's already, that's going to happen, or it's happened, right? So if we assume something, we assume we already know what somebody's thinking. We've made up a decision. We've come to a finality within our mind. And we want to come into that finality with our goals. Bob Proctor says 95% of people write their goals down the wrong way. They write them down with a date out there and that they're going to get there. And what we want to do is what Neville Goddard teaches, think from the end of the goal. It's already accomplished. Sit into the goal as though it's already accomplished. So when you're writing out your 3x5 cards and the way you want your life to be, your Isagenix business to be, you're writing it down as though it's already done. So rather than I will be, it is I am now. I am. It's a different way of looking at things. We're not used to doing that. They don't teach it in school. They don't teach it in business, but we teach it here, and this is what will become the norm. Bob Proctor said when he started teaching this to businesses, they actually kicked him out. Like they didn't invite him back. And now they're paying him big money to come and teach their employees these things, because they're realizing now that there is a correlation between how we set our goals and how we look at them. So for the second 10 minutes, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to use the same muscles that you used with the thoughts of breathing. And like Bob Proctor was saying with the dot, and keep bringing your mind back to the dot, we're going to keep bringing our mind back to it's already accomplished and the feeling of that. Because what's going to happen is your mind's going to want to say, well, how's that happen? Or how's that going to happen? Or no, that hasn't happened. That hasn't happened yet. And what we want to do is come back to, it's already happened. I am now living. I'm so grateful for the life I now get to live. I'm so grateful that, and you fill in the blank, that it's already happened. There's going to be this fight between your mind saying it's not happened and you say it has already happened. And the fight gets less and less when you develop the muscle to just stay on your goal as though it's already achieved in those 10 minutes. So repeating it, and you just repeat it like a broken record over and over. You'll expand it a little bit. There'll be some new thoughts that come to you and you'll write those down. But you basically, for 10 minutes, want to live a fantasy life. You want to turn that fantasy into a fact for those 10 minutes. Not a fact of how you're going to do it or why it's going to do it. It's a fact that it's already done. I like Mary Poppins. If you haven't watched Mary Poppins, go watch Mary Poppins, the old movie. In fact, we just bought the new one and I watch it. I don't like it because I love the old movie too much. I love Bert and the other Mary Poppins. There's a scene where they jump into the sidewalk chalk painting and it becomes their reality. They're living that sidewalk chalk painting. They didn't ask how they got in there. They didn't ask why they got in there. They are now eating the cotton candy. They're enjoying the amusement park, and they're living it. They've turned that fantasy into a fact. That's what these second 10 minutes are. Okay, now what you're really doing is you're exercising faith. For those of you that are of a denomination of faith, this is faith. We've been taught that faith is a certain powerful thing that can be in our lives. Well, this is how we actually implement and facilitate that faith. And we grow our faith by degree with the ability of our mind being able to stay there. If Peter walking on water would have been able to maintain the black dot while he was on the water, he would have kept walking on the water. He wouldn't have sank. But what happened is his mental muscle wasn't developed, and he was distracted by other thoughts that were negators. They were the doubt. Like, how am I doing this? I shouldn't be doing this. What the heck was I thinking? I'm scared. Oh no, sink. If he would have had the mental muscle to hold on what got him on the water, he would have kept walking on the water, you guys. And that's the power of the law of attraction that's implemented in our behalf. I don't know how that part works. I just know that it does every time I do it. And it's not deciding whether or not I deserve it. It's, am I doing it or not? When I do it, I will get the result of doing that, regardless of anything else, right? It's immutable. There's not a, what does Bob Proctor say? I can't remember the exact word. I want to say a pretentious, but it's not pernicious. It's what's the word I'm looking for? It starts with a P, like a God that plays favorites. God has set the universe up so that cause and effect is woven into everything. When you get your mind concentrated and uninterrupted on a certain specific thing, there's an effect that's going to happen because of that. God wove it into the universe, in everything. There's going to be a unity, a collaborative unity of actions that start to take place around that kind of concentrated thought. It's already happening in your life, but the thoughts have already been set up. It's called your paradigm, your expectations, the things that you believe are already going to happen because that's just the way it is. But you can reevaluate things and set up a new way of assuming things. But you're going to have to overcome the old way of assuming things and the habits and the paradigm. So we do that by doing these exercises. So for 10 minutes, you're going to go right from the first 10 minutes, reset the alarm to go off in 10 minutes, and now you're doing it with your goals. And Jojo, do you have like maybe some examples that people might could get an example of? Not that they have to write it the way that you do, but how does that sound when you're assuming your goals?
I'm so happy and grateful now that I am, and I actually have switched that up a lot because I say, because I'm so happy and grateful, I now am
In the platinum room.
Platinum, 250 cycles a week plus. I'm 8-star. I look at my team and how my team is doing, and that there's nobody on my team cycling less than 20 times a week. I look at that being the bottom, like, and all of these people in the middle growing. I look at the characteristics of my team. I look at the growth of the people around me as well as myself. So it's always, I'm looking at it as I'm looking back and telling myself what's taken place over the last period of time. Like I'm writing myself a letter. This is what's happened. This is what's taken place. This is what my life looks like now, as it's already completed. It's already done. This is what I'm
going back and reading your diary, right? That of what your life had been like for the last 5 years.
It's putting in your order. So you order, you go to the restaurant, you order a salad, you know the salad is coming. You're not questioning, you put the order in and you just know that it's there. The assumption's already done, right? So it's already been created.
Exactly. So be careful and check in with people if you need a message, Jojo or myself, or and make sure that when you've written them, they're not written as they're going to happen. Our tendency habitually and just paradigm-wise is to still, even though listening to what we say, write it as though it's already happened. You'll write down words that will say, well, that hasn't happened yet the way that that's worded.
Like when this happens, I'm
so happy and grateful when I'm a platinum incomer. Mm-hmm. No.
And so the thought is always, we think from, if I do, then I can have, then I'll be. And so we're flipping that around. So you're being first, your being first, the do and the have come after, right?
It's going to feel like you're lying to yourself. You basically are, but it's okay because the principles teach us that this delusional way of seeing things is really a principled way of doing it, of exercising faith. So you've got to you're going to feel a little delusional, and in doing that, you don't want to be delusional, so you'll write in words that will negate law of assumption.
But this is your GPS. This is your GPS. This is setting in your destination. But it's not like you're going there. You're setting the GPS on the opposite way from the destination backwards, if that makes sense. So it's always you're coming from the destination. But you have to know where you're going to be. Have to know where you're going to be, or your GPS is going to take you all over the place.
Yeah. That's that whole setting a goal and then, setting the boat with the sails and send it out to sea without a captain steering the wheel. It's going to be shipwrecked or just end up somewhere, a derelict. So you have to set these goals in this particular way to institute the principles that then will start opening the right doors for you. And one other thing that came up for me, I wrote down right here, on the first 10, you may want to go past the 10 minutes, but when the alarm goes off, stop on that one and then go into this one, because you're basically doing the same exercises here. That's going to continue to develop that muscle by when it goes off, bring it back. But I want you to do it here for sure, the first 10 minutes. If you feel like going longer than 10 minutes on the second 10 minutes, then do it. Many times I do. I've got enough 3x5 cards on my phone now app that it takes me more than 10 minutes to get through them. I still set the 10-minute clock because I want to go minimum 10 minutes. But if you feel like going longer, don't do it on both of them. Do it on the second one.
And on your second 10 minutes, the A is still the same. You're still doing the A the exact same way. The only thing that transition is the B and focusing on your desires.
Sitting in a place where you're dedicated to this, you're uninterrupted, you're not multitasking. I still sit still when I'm doing this, when I'm doing the second 10 minutes. I'm still practicing that body control. And I'm doing the breathing thing, but I'm now doing it with something that's going to actually bring the goals to me that I want, because I'm using that law of assumption. So when we're done here, I'll think of 10 other things that I should have said on this.
It's good. It's definite direction and steps that give us.
Non-negotiable, you guys. This is non-negotiable. This is something you're going to do every single day. And I've been holding myself to that. I'm going to tell you, it's not easy. There are times when my biological rhythm is down, and I could come up with all of the perfect reasons why it's not important for me to do it right now. In fact, I don't even care if I do it right now. I don't even care if I get my goal, right? Because I don't have it now anyways. So what difference is it going to make? That's where, why you have your goal. Why is your why your why? Is that's the motivator to say, this is non-negotiable. I'm doing it even though I don't feel like it right now.
It's what you do then that makes the difference. It's not the easy days. It's those days that make the difference.
Yeah. And it's a fight getting through that 10 and 10. It's like 2 minutes feels like a half hour. Where when I'm in the flow, 10 minutes feels like 30 seconds or a minute. I'm like, whoa, are you kidding me? I went off already? So just know, though, that the compounding effect, the principle of compounding takes place when you do this every single day. For you overachievers, and I wouldn't say overachievers, just people that want it now and you want it fast and you want to hurry it up, they're going to do it 3 times a day. You're going to do it all day long. And when you're distracted and then you get off being distracted, you pull it back to it, So anyway, we can go into a second, thing around this. Just doing this and not stopping it and doing it at a level of excellence, the best you can every day, whether it's a low biological rhythm or an awesome biological rhythm, doing it every day is going to change your life, and it will evolve and it will grow and expand and consume more of your life in a good way. That's going to bring you the things that you want, desire. All right, Jojo, that was awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Have fun, everybody. 10-10.